we are going to invite in an expert that is going to talk to us a little bit about further protecting that asset. Here with me now is Michelle. Michelle, you are you're with InsurLine Brokers, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for coming by and seeing us tonight. We really appreciate you talking a little bit about how people are going about this, because we were just talking to a home inspector, and there's a lot to consider when it comes to home insurance. You guys have a lot of questions about the properties that we're taking a look. What's on the forefront of your mind when you're talking to somebody who says, hey, I just put in an offer and it got accepted?
It's funny that you asked it, because I have a sheet here with all of the different questions that I ask, and having, a good relationship with different realtors, home inspectors really helps my job, because then they're able to send me over the listing sheet. Sometimes, they'll even send over a copy of the inspection. And so that way I'm able to answer all of the questions about the home. Because even though, you might buy a house for, $350,000, when we do our evaluator, that number is usually different, because it's based on the replacement cost of the home versus the market value. And so that's where we need to make sure, how many bathrooms do you have? How many bedrooms? How many, if you're on an acreage, how many acres? Do you have a 1-car, 2-car, attached, detached? Do you have, any upgrades? So like, do you have, laminate countertops versus quartz countertops? Do you have soaker tubs, regular tubs? Like, it's just, because we all know houses are not the same and they all have different finishings. So it's a matter of asking the right questions to make sure that, we get that, covered in the insurance.
I appreciate that. In fact, actually, we like to be as proactive as possible. So that sheet that you showed is something that we have already had sent to us. So we know exactly what Michelle is looking for in advance. We've turned it into a handy little type form that we go through during our home inspections, so that we can save everybody a next step. Because what we used to see is people would go through their home inspection. They'd be like, okay, we want to buy it now. And
Yep.
then you're the next stop, and then you're like, hey, we have this sheet of information that we need. And then they come back to us and they're like, so how do we get into that house again?
And that's the thing, especially when people are buying, they may not, remember, or, if they've seen so many different houses, they're getting houses mixed up. And so that's where, when someone comes to me and says, I've just bought a house, I'm like, who's your realtor? If they haven't told me. And then I'm like, you know what? Give me a second. I'm going to give them a call, get them to send me over the listing sheet. And then that way I just need your personal information, and the rest of it, I can usually get off of, the MLS sheet that you guys provide. It usually has a really good description of the home and, all the measurements and this and that and whatever. So, yeah. And in the event that, we don't have that, it's asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that most people don't realize when they're taking a look at endeavoring in real estate, because surprisingly enough, when you survey people, there's 3 of the worst things that could happen to them. They could find out that they're dying, they could find out that they've lost their job, or they could find out that they're about to move. And really, when you take a look at what people do as far as these big ventures, moving is a milestone. It's
Oh,
not
yes.
just changing a place or changing, location. It's changing a life. So when you're helping people protect those assets, when they're coming to talk to you with those initial discussions, I imagine you just say, like, go for the cheapest stuff out there. It's really all the same.
Absolutely. No, never.
Okay, it's my first day as a mortgage broker apprentice. You're gonna have to, or sorry, as an insurance broker apprentice. I don't even know what the title is. Uh, so these products are all different. And how many products do you have access to?
So we represent 4 different companies in our office. And usually, like, auto insurance is auto insurance. It's legislated. Home insurance is not legislated. And so that's where you have to be really careful to make sure that, when you are comparing, not all home policies are the same. And so you want to make sure that you have coverage if you have to move out of your home, due to a fire or, a sewer backup claim. You want to make sure that you have sewer backup coverage. You want to make sure you have flood coverage, bylaws. I make sure that my clients have fire department coverage. And so it's just the little extra things that you want to make sure that when you are looking at, different quotes, you don't just look at that dollar, because that dollar may not include sewer backup, or it might only be $25,000. We see a lot of that. And it's because it's based on your postal code. So it's a matter of, okay, let's go to the next company. Are they offering full sewer backup? What is this going to cost you? And making sure, if you don't have a finished basement, might not be a big deal. But if you want a finished basement with bedrooms and a theater and this and that and whatever, you're going to want that coverage. And so it's just being upfront, communicating and letting them know that this is what I'm offering, this is what it's going to cost you, and just kind of going from there.
Well, I appreciate you making sure that it's a good fit, but also, I think that there's a lot of people under the impression that it's all the same. That you're talking about some pretty detailed stuff about who has sewer backup.
Yeah.
So finding the best coverage that's available in that specific location, this seems a lot different than buying a car and getting a car insured.
It is, absolutely. Car insurance is regulated by the government, so regardless of where you go, the policy is the same. The pricing might be a little different depending on what is inputted into the system, but with home insurance, each company is different. And so you want to make sure that, and that's where working with a broker, it doesn't have to be me, but that's where working with a broker comes into play, because they represent multiple companies. So if we have one company that is only going to offer 25,000 of sewer backup, then you go to company B where it might be $300 more, but you're getting full limits on sewer backup. To me, that's a no-brainer. That's the coverage you want. And so it's a matter of looking through everything and not just looking at the bottom line.
I think that that's a very good point, because there's, it's not like golf. It's not just the lowest score wins. These are product to product. Now, what do you wish that more homeowners or more people that were about to enter the market in 2021 would know? If you could just give a message like they were all your cousin, what would you want them to know?
Before you sign on the dotted line, talk to your insurance person, get a quote. It doesn't cost you anything, because you could end up being on an acreage, for example, you're outside that 13-kilometer limit where you're considered unprotected, your insurance is through the roof. I've actually had clients who have walked away because their insurance was more than their mortgage, like on a monthly payment basis. So get a quote. It doesn't hurt anything. If you have to, put it as a condition. But really, a quote should only take a day. And you'll be able to have a good idea as to how to budget that in, because it can be anywhere from $800 to 5,000, right? It just depends on the home, the postal code, credit rating, and all of that other.
Well, I appreciate you breaking that down. That's something that I definitely didn't understand with, getting the right fit. I know that insurance companies' appetites change. So
Yeah,
some people are actually seeing their rates go up, even though they haven't done anything. And those would also be people I would hope would reach out to you, because it could be that
absolutely.
that insurance company is saying that what's going on with COVID, we've decided that we're just going to focus here, and if
Yeah.
you don't fit that cookie cutter, then we're just going to raise rates until you go somewhere else.
Absolutely, definitely. And I'm really seeing a lot of increases, especially since January, where people are like, I've never had a claim. I don't know what's going on. Why is my insurance going up? And so I find insurance is one of those products where you set it and forget it. And you just hope that you have the coverage that you need. And like I said, it's a little bit of work. It's a little bit of time, but it might be worth your while to, make that phone call. I know for myself, I, do text, email, phone calls. I work outside the 9 to 5. So if you're at a job where you have a boss looking over your shoulder or you're super busy, call me at 7 o'clock. We'll talk, right? Like that is the one thing that I do a little bit differently, just to make sure that you're not one of the ones that, thinks you have sewer backup and you don't.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming by and sharing with us. This is Michelle Martin. She's from InsurLine ClearCut Insurance. Her contact information is easily available because she is one of our valued, trusted experts. We appreciate that she looks out for our buyers entering the market. And if you're entering the market in 2021, you definitely want to have those conversations with Michelle. She might even be a good call to make ahead of time before you shop, because it could
Absolutely.
be that some of your choices are different when you know how they're going to be insured.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on, Taylor. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, and looking forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.